I never expected revenge to arrive gift-wrapped in a merger and acquisition report, but there it was on my desk at 9 a.m. on a Tuesday. My company had just acquired Hoffman Industries, the very firm where my ex-husband Anton and my dear cousin Trinity had been working for the past 3 years. Life has a twisted sense of humor sometimes. My name is Marissa, and 5 years ago, these two people destroyed everything I had built. Now, by some cosmic joke, they were about to become my employees. Did you see the personnel list? Juliet, my assistant, poked her head into my office, her expression a mix of concern and barely contained excitement. She'd been there through it all, watching me rebuild from nothing. I did. I kept my voice steady, though my hands were shaking as I set down my coffee mug. Quite the surprise, isn't it? Surprise? It's karma wrapped in a business deal. They're going to flip when they find out you're their new boss. The memory of that family reunion 5 years ago crashed over me like a wave. I could still see Trinity's face, tear-streaked and guilty, as she confessed everything. How she and Anton had been seeing each other for months. How they'd planned it all. The gradual draining of our joint accounts, the fabricated business losses, the perfectly timed divorce filing that left me with nothing but debt and broken trust. Ms. Clayton, Edgar Hoffman's gravelly voice interrupted my thoughts as he appeared in my doorway. Do you have a moment to discuss the transition? I gestured for him to enter, noting how his expensive suit couldn't quite hide his discomfort. He'd sold his company to me for a reason, and I had a feeling I was about to find out why. I assume you've noticed some familiar names in the employee roster, he said, settling into the chair across from me. Hard to miss your own ex-husband and cousin, I replied dryly. Edgar shifted uncomfortably. I should mention that Anton has been problematic lately. His department's numbers don't add up, and there are discrepancies I can't explain. It's part of why I decided to sell. My phone buzzed with a text from Prudence, my mentor. Heard the news. This is your chance. Don't waste it. What exactly are you suggesting, Edgar? I leaned forward, studying his face. I'm suggesting that karma might need a little push. He pulled out a folder and placed it on my desk. This contains everything I've gathered on Anton's activities over the past year. Use it however you see fit. As he left, Juliet returned with more coffee and a concerned look. Trinity's online too, says it's urgent. My heart jumped to my throat. Put her through. Marissa? Trinity's voice was small, afraid. I just heard about the acquisition. We need to talk. There are things you don't know about Anton, about what really happened. 5 years too late for explanations, don't you think? Please, she whispered. It's not what you think. I made terrible mistakes, but there's more to the story. Anton, he's not done hurting people. You need to know the truth before... The line went dead. I sat there, staring at the phone, while Juliet watched me with worried eyes. What are you going to do? Looking down at Edgar's folder, then at the merger documents that had started this all, I felt a smile creep across my face. I'm going to do what I do best, run this company. If that happens to make certain people uncomfortable, well, that's just business, isn't it? My computer pinged with a new email. Anonymous sender, subject line. What you don't know about Prudence Hill. Juliet! I called out as she turned to leave. Cancel my afternoon meetings. Looks like we have some digging to do. She grinned, already pulling out her tablet. Finally, some excitement around here. As I opened the email, I couldn't help but think about how I'd built my company focusing on women's empowerment, helping others find their strength after betrayal. Now here I was, faced with the ultimate test of my own principles. Would I choose revenge, or would I rise above it? The answer, I suspected, lay somewhere in Edgar's folder and this mysterious email. Either way, Anton and Trinity were about to learn what happens when you underestimate the woman you left behind. I picked up my phone and texted Prudence back. Meeting tomorrow, 8 a.m. Bring everything you know about Anton's current projects. The response came instantly. Time to make them pay? I stared at her message for a long moment before replying. Time to uncover the truth, all of it. Whatever game was being played here, I had a feeling I was no longer just a pawn. The question was, Who else was moving pieces on this board? The click of my heels echoed through Hoffman Industries' lobby as I walked in for the first transition meeting. Heads turned, whispers followed, and I caught the exact moment Anton recognized me, his coffee cup frozen halfway to his mouth, face draining of color. "Welcome to your new workplace," I announced to the gathered employees, my voice steady despite my racing heart. "I'm Marissa, CEO of Empower Solutions, and as of today, your new boss." Trinity, standing in the back corner, looked like she might faint. Good. Ms. Clayton, Xander, Anton's business partner, stepped forward with an extended hand. "We've heard impressive things about your leadership style." His smile seemed genuine, but there was something calculating in his eyes. "Thank you. I believe in transparency and direct communication," I said, looking straight at Anton. "Speaking of which, department heads, my office in 15 minutes. As the crowd dispersed, Juliet appeared at my elbow. "Prudence is waiting in the conference room with those files you requested. Tell her I'll be there shortly. And Juliet, keep an eye on Trinity. She looks ready to bolt." I'd barely reached the elevator when Anton caught up with me. "Marissa, wait! That's Miss Clayton to you," I cut him off, stepping into the elevator. To my annoyance, he followed. "You can't just walk in here and—" "Actually, I can. I own this company now. But don't worry, your position is safe." I smiled sweetly. For now. The elevator doors opened to reveal Trinity waiting in the hallway. "Marissa, please, can we talk?" "Office hours are between 9 and 5. Schedule it with my assistant." I walked past her, but her next words stopped me cold. It's about Edgar. He's not who you think he is." I turned slowly. "You have 2 minutes." Trinity glanced nervously at Anton, who stood watching us with clenched fists. "Not here, not with him around. My office, now." I led them both inside, where Prudence was already waiting with a stack of folders. "Well, isn't this cozy?" Prudence remarked dryly. "Shall I stay?" "Please do." I sat behind my desk, studying the 3 faces before me. "Talk." Trinity took a shaky breath. "Edgar's been manipulating company finances for years. Anton discovered it 6 months ago, but Edgar threatened to frame him if he spoke up." "That's convenient," I said, opening one of Edgar's folders. "Because according to these records, Anton's been doing some creative accounting himself." "Those documents are fake," Anton snapped. "Edgar set me up." "Like you set me up 5 years ago?" The words came out sharper than intended. "That wasn't—" Anton started, but my phone buzzed with another anonymous email. "Check Prudence's laptop. Folder marked Project Phoenix. Password Revenge9985. I glanced at Prudence, who was suddenly very interested in her phone. "Everyone out," I ordered. "Except you, Prudence. We need to talk." As Anton and Trinity left, Xander appeared in the doorway. "Bad time?" "Ah, actually, your timing is perfect. Come in." I turned to Prudence. "Would you mind if I borrowed your laptop? There's something I need to verify." She hesitated just a fraction too long. "Of course not." "Interesting," Xander mused, watching the exchange. "You might want to see this first." He placed a USB drive on my desk. "Security footage from last week shows some rather interesting late-night meetings between certain parties." My phone buzzed again. "Don't trust anyone. Meeting tonight, 8 p.m., Carter's Cafe. Come alone." "Prudence," I said carefully, "why don't we reschedule our meeting? I'm sure you have plenty to handle with the transition." She gathered her things, face unreadable. "Of course, but Marissa, remember who helped you rebuild when you had nothing." After she left, Xander leaned forward. "You've stepped into a snake pit." "So I'm gathering. The question is, which snake bit first?" He smiled grimly. "That's what makes it interesting, isn't it? By the way, Trinity's been trying to resign for months. Edgar wouldn't let her." "Why?" "That's the million-dollar question." He stood to leave. "Watch your back, Marissa. Not everyone here is what they seem." After he left, I opened my email to find another anonymous message. Prudence Hill has been working with Edgar for years. But that's not the worst of it. Tonight, I'll tell you everything. I stared at the message, then at the USB drive Xander had left. Something bigger was at play here. Something that went beyond my personal vendetta against Anton and Trinity. Juliet poked her head in. Your next meeting's in 5 minutes. Also, Trinity left this for you. She handed me an envelope. Inside was a single photo from that family reunion 5 years ago. Me, Trinity, and Anton, all smiling. On the back was written, "Things aren't always what they seem. I'm sorry for more than you know." I tucked the photo into my desk drawer. 8 hours until my meeting with the anonymous emailer. 8 hours to decide who to trust. If anyone. Carter's Cafe was nearly empty when I arrived at 7:55 p.m. The barista pointed me toward a corner booth, where, to my surprise, Edgar sat nursing a coffee. "You're the anonymous emailer?" I slid into the seat across from him. "No." He pushed a manila envelope across the table. "But I know who is. And after tonight, so will you." Before I could respond, my phone lit up with a text from Juliet. "Urgent. Someone's accessing confidential files from Prudence's computer right now." "Excuse me." I stood up, but Edgar grabbed my wrist. "Wait. There's something you need to see first." He nodded toward the envelope. I sat back down and opened it. Inside were photographs, dozens of them. Prudence meeting with Edgar at various locations over the past year. Trinity looking terrified while Edgar handed her something. Anton and Prudence having what appeared to be a heated argument outside a restaurant. "What is this?" "Insurance," Edgar said quietly. "Against what's about to happen." My phone buzzed again. This time from an unknown number. "Don't trust Edgar. Check the cafe's kitchen." I looked up sharply. "Why did you really sell your company?" "Because—" A crash from the kitchen interrupted him. We both turned to see Xander stumbling out, clutching his side. "He's got a gun!" Xander gasped, collapsing into a nearby chair. "Back door!" I ran toward the kitchen, pushing through the swinging doors, just in time to see a figure disappearing through the exit. On the floor lay a laptop, Prudence's laptop. "Stop!" I shouted, but by the time I reached the door, they were gone. My phone rang. Juliet again. "Prudence just called an emergency board meeting for tomorrow morning. She's trying to contest the acquisition." I returned to find Edgar gone, and Xander making a call. "Police are on their way," he said, wincing. "Just got knocked around a bit, I'm fine. But you need to see what's on that laptop." We opened it to find a single document open, Project Phoenix. My hands shook as I read through emails between Prudence and Edgar dating back 6 years. Before my divorce, before everything. "They planned it all," I whispered. "The divorce, the company sale, everything." "Keep reading," Xander urged. The next email made my blood run cold. It was from Prudence to Edgar. "Marissa's perfect for this. Once Anton leaves her, she'll be desperate enough to accept any help. We'll build her up just to take everything in the end. The ultimate revenge against her father for what he did to us." "My father? What does he have to do with this?" A lot, apparently." Trinity's voice made us both jump. She stood in the doorway, looking exhausted. "I've been trying to tell you. Prudence and Edgar were business partners with your father 20 years ago. He caught them embezzling and turned them in. Edgar went to prison. Prudence lost everything." "And you know this how?" Xander asked. "Because they've been blackmailing me with it. My father helped cover up their original crime. They threatened to expose him if I didn't help them get to you through Anton." My phone buzzed with another anonymous message. "Now you know why. Meeting tomorrow, 7 a.m., your office. Bring the laptop." "The police will want to see this," Xander said. "No," I replied firmly. "Not yet. First, I want to hear what our mystery emailer has to say." I turned to Trinity. "You're coming clean about everything tomorrow. No more secrets." She nodded, tears in her eyes. "I never wanted to hurt you. Anton didn't either, not really. We were both just pawns in their game." "Speaking of Anton," Xander checked his phone. "He just texted me. Prudence called him in for a private meeting tonight. Let me guess. She's offering him a deal to testify against me at tomorrow's board meeting?" Probably. What are you going to do? I picked up Prudence's laptop and the envelope of photos. I'm going to do what I should have done 5 years ago. Fight back. As if on cue, my phone lit up with texts from both Anton and Prudence. Anton, we need to talk. It's not what you think. Prudence, don't do anything rash, dear. Remember who your real friends are. I showed the messages to Xander and Trinity. Looks like everyone's choosing sides. And which side are you on? Xander asked carefully. I thought about the photos, the emails, the years of manipulation. I'm on the side of truth. Tomorrow morning, everything comes out. Every last dirty secret. Trinity touched my arm gently. Be careful. They've spent years planning this. So have I replied. I just didn't know it until now. As we left the cafe, police sirens wailing in the distance, I couldn't help but wonder, who would be left standing when the dust settled? The answer would come sooner than any of us expected. I arrived at my office at 6:45 a.m., coffee in hand, to find Anton already waiting outside my door. His usually immaculate appearance was disheveled, like he hadn't slept. Don't say anything, he blurted as I approached. Just look. He handed me his phone, showing a recording of his meeting with Prudence from the night before. In the video, Prudence sat behind her desk, calm and collected. It's simple, Anton. Either you help me take her down, or I release proof that you knew about the embezzlement all along. But I didn't know anything. Doesn't matter. I have documents that say you did. Your choice. I handed the phone back. Why are you showing me this? Because I'm done being their puppet. He ran a hand through his hair. What happened 5 years ago? It wasn't all what you think. Prudence approached me first, showed me fake evidence that you were stealing from the company. I was stupid enough to believe her. And Trinity? They used her to drive us apart. Said they'd destroy her father if she didn't play along. He checked his watch. She's meeting with the board right now, telling them everything. My phone buzzed. A text from Juliet. Prudence just arrived with 2 lawyers. Edgar's here too. Time to end this, I muttered, unlocking my office door. Inside, sitting calmly at my desk, was an elderly man I hadn't seen in 15 years. Hello, sweetheart, my father said quietly. What are you? I'm the anonymous emailer. He stood slowly. I've been tracking Prudence and Edgar for years, gathering evidence. When I heard they were targeting you, I had to act. You could have warned me 5 years ago, I said coldly. I tried. The night before Anton left, I came to your house. Prudence was there. She told you I was drunk, trying to cause trouble. Remember? I did remember. I'd turned him away. The door burst open, and Xander rushed in. They're calling an emergency vote to remove you as CEO. Right now. Like hell they are. I grabbed Prudence's laptop and the envelope of photos. Dad, you coming? He smiled. Wouldn't miss it. The boardroom was packed. Prudence stood at the head of the table, Edgar beside her, both looking supremely confident. Trinity sat in the corner, pale but determined. The board members watched in confused silence as we entered. Perfect timing, Prudence smiled. We were just discussing your removal for corporate espionage. Funny, I set the laptop on the table. I was about to discuss yours. You can't prove anything, Edgar snapped. Actually, my father stepped forward, we can prove everything. Prudence's face went white. Richard, you're supposed to be dead? He smiled grimly. Sorry to disappoint. I've been watching you destroy lives for too long. I connected the laptop to the projector. Let's start with Project Phoenix, shall we? Your grand plan for revenge against my father by destroying his daughter? It's all lies, Prudence declared, but her voice shook. The police have copies of everything, Xander announced, including the recording of you threatening Anton last night. Trinity stood up. I've already given my statement about the blackmail. As have I, Edgar said quietly. Everyone turned to look at him. I'm tired, he continued. Prudence, it's over. I already signed a full confession this morning. You what? Prudence shrieked, lunging for him. Two security guards I hadn't noticed stepped forward to restrain her. The SEC has been investigating for months, my father explained. Edgar chose to cooperate in exchange for leniency. I turned to the board members. Every document is in the folders in front of you. Take your time reviewing them. I'll be in my office. As I turned to leave, Prudence called out, "You have no idea what your father did to us." "No," I replied, "but I know what you did to me. The difference is, I'm choosing to end the cycle of revenge." Back in my office, Anton waited with Juliet. "The police are here," Juliet announced. "They want statements from everyone." "Tell them we're ready," I looked at Anton. "All of us." He nodded. "For what it's worth, I'm sorry, for everything." I know. I surprised myself by meaning it. We were all manipulated, but it ends today. My father touched my shoulder. "You did good, kid. Better than I ever did." "We're not done yet," I said, watching through my office window as Prudence was led away in handcuffs. "The real work, rebuilding trust, healing relationships, that's just beginning." "Speaking of which," Juliet interrupted, "the board wants to meet again tomorrow. Something about discussing the company's new direction." I smiled. "Tell them I look forward to it. After all, this company was built on empowerment and second chances. Maybe it's time we lived up to that." As everyone filed out to talk to the police, I sat at my desk, looking at that old photo Trinity had given me. Sometimes the best revenge isn't revenge at all. It's breaking free from the cycle that trapped you in the first place. My phone buzzed one last time. "Proud of you, daughter. Coffee soon?" For the first time in years, I replied, "Yes." The morning after Prudence's arrest, I found Trinity waiting in my office, clutching a thick manila folder. "There's more," she said without preamble. "Prudence kept records of everything. I found these in her private safe after the police left." I took the folder, my coffee forgotten on the desk. Inside were photos, documents, and emails dating back 20 years. "How did you get into her safe?" "She made me memorize the combination years ago. Insurance, she called it." Trinity's hands trembled. "But that's not the worst part. Look at the last page." The document was dated just 3 days ago. A contract between Prudence and someone named Marcus, agreeing to transfer millions in company assets to offshore accounts. "Who's Marcus?" I asked. "That would be me," a voice said from the doorway. A tall man in an expensive suit stepped in, followed by Xander. "Marcus Reynolds, FBI. We've been tracking Prudence's network for years." "You're kidding," I said flatly. "I wish." Xander closed the door. "Marcus contacted me 6 months ago. That's why I've been playing both sides." My phone buzzed. A text from Anton. "Don't trust Marcus. Meeting in parking garage now. Urgent." "Excuse me." I stood up. "I need some air." Trinity grabbed my arm. "Don't go alone. I'll be fine. Just keep our guests entertained." The parking garage was dim and eerily quiet. Anton stood by my car, looking nervous. "Marcus isn't FBI," he said as soon as I approached. "He's Prudence's son." "What?" "That's why she did all this. Not just revenge against your father. She was building an empire for her son. I found proof in Edgar's office last night." A car engine roared to life somewhere in the garage. "We need to go." Anton grabbed my hand. "Now." We ran toward the exit, but a black SUV screeched to a stop in front of us. Marcus stepped out, pointing a gun. "Going somewhere?" "Actually, yes." Juliet's voice rang out as she emerged from behind a pillar, phone held high. "And this is all being live-streamed to the real FBI." Marcus spun around, but it was too late. Police cars flooded the garage, lights flashing. "Drop the weapon!" an officer shouted. Back in my office an hour later, I watched Marcus being led away in handcuffs while Detective Sarah Rivera took our statements. "We've been building this case for months," she explained. "Prudence's network goes deeper than anyone realized. Marcus was handling all the international accounts." "But how did you know he'd be here today?" I asked. Juliet grinned. Remember that security system upgrade I insisted on last week? Every conversation in this building has been monitored by the FBI. And I've been feeding them information, Xander added. The real FBI approached me long before Marcus did. Trinity sat heavily in a chair. So it's really over? Almost, my father said, walking in. There's still the matter of the board meeting in an hour. They'll want answers. They'll get them, I promised. Complete transparency from now on. Anton cleared his throat. About that, there's something else you should know. The night I left, Prudence showed me documents proving that your father was embezzling from his company. Those were forgeries, my father interrupted. But they were convincing enough that even I questioned my own records for a while. That's why you disappeared, I realized. You were gathering evidence to clear your name. And to protect you, though I failed at that part. No, I touched his arm. You helped end it. That counts for something. My phone buzzed with a message from the board. Meeting moved up. 15 minutes. Ready to face them? Juliet asked. Actually, I looked around the room at Anton, Trinity, my father, and the others. I think we all need to face them. Together. The boardroom fell silent as we filed in. I took my place at the head of the table, the others flanking me. Before we begin, I addressed the board. You should know that everything that's happened, the good, the bad, and the ugly, has taught me something crucial about leadership. It's not about revenge or power. It's about breaking cycles of hurt and creating something better. And how do you propose to do that? One board member asked. I smiled. By telling you the whole truth from the beginning. No more secrets, no more hidden agendas. Just honest business focused on genuine empowerment. Starting with this, Anton stepped forward, placing a folder on the table. My resignation, but also my full cooperation with any investigation. Trinity placed another folder beside it. Mine too, along with everything I know about Prudence's operations. The board members exchanged looks. Well, the chairman finally spoke, it seems we have a lot to discuss. Yes, I agreed. We do. And this time, we're going to do it right. As the meeting began, I caught my father's proud smile from across the room. Sometimes the hardest part of healing isn't exposing the truth. It's learning to trust again after the truth comes out. You need to see this. Juliet burst into my office 2 days after the board meeting, waving a tablet. Prudence's prison call logs. She's been contacting someone every hour on the hour. I took the tablet, scanning the numbers. These are all international calls. To a private bank in Switzerland, Xander added, walking in. The FBI traced them. There's still money missing. Millions. My father appeared in the doorway. And I think I know where it is. He held up an old photograph. Remember your mother's art gallery? The one that mysteriously burned down when I was 12? I stood up. What about it? It didn't burn down by accident. Prudence arranged it. Insurance fraud. Your mother's signature was forged on documents transferring ownership of several paintings to a private collector. Let me guess, I said. The collector was Marcus. Close. It was his father. My father placed the photo on my desk. Prudence's first husband. Trinity rushed in, breathless. Anton's gone. What do you mean, gone? He left this morning for a meeting with the FBI and never showed up. His phone's off, and his apartment's been cleared out. My phone rang. Detective Rivera. Anton just turned himself in, she said without preamble. He's offering evidence about art forgeries dating back 20 years. Says it involves your mother's gallery. I put the phone on speaker. We were just discussing that. What kind of evidence? Shipping manifests, bank transfers, insurance claims. He says Prudence has been using forged artwork as collateral for loans. The real paintings are in a vault somewhere. Switzerland, Xander cut in. That's what the calls are about. She's trying to move them. I know where, my father said quietly. Your mother told me before she died. There's a private vault in Geneva. She discovered it right before the gallery fire. Why didn't you ever say anything? Because Prudence threatened to hurt you if I did. After your mother's death, I couldn't risk it. My phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. Vault 247, passcode 031285. Hurry! That's my birthday, I whispered. It's a trap, Juliet warned. Probably, I agreed, but it's also our only lead. I'm coming with you, Trinity declared. We all are, Xander added. Detective Rivera's voice crackled through the speaker. I can have Interpol meet you there. When do you want to move? I looked at my father. How fast can you get us to Switzerland? My private jet's fueled and ready. I've been waiting for this moment for 20 years. 6 hours later, we stood outside the private vault facility in Geneva. Interpol agents positioned themselves discreetly around the building, while Detective Rivera coordinated with local authorities. Ready? My father asked. I entered the code. The vault door clicked open. Inside, instead of paintings, we found Marcus sitting calmly at a table. Took you long enough, he smiled. Mother said you'd figure it out eventually. Where are the paintings? I demanded. Safe, like Anton, like everything else we've worked for. It's over, Marcus. Detective Rivera stepped in, gun drawn. We have Anton's evidence. Do you? He slid a phone across the table. Call him. I dialed Anton's number. A phone rang somewhere in the building. Down here! Trinity called from the hallway. We found Anton in another vault, tied to a chair, but unharmed. I'm sorry, he said as we untied him. They grabbed me outside the FBI office. Marcus said he'd hurt Trinity if I didn't cooperate. The paintings? My father pressed. In there. Anton pointed to a large safe. But you need Prudence's fingerprint to open it. No, I smiled. We don't. I pulled out the photo my father had shown me earlier. We just need this. What's so special about that photo? Marcus demanded. Look at the frame, my father said. Your mother's fingerprints, preserved in the original varnish, from the day she stole it from my wife's gallery. Detective Rivera held up a portable scanner. Shall we? The safe clicked open, revealing dozens of carefully wrapped paintings. My mother's collection, I breathed. All of it. And proof of every fraud Prudence ever committed, my father added. She kept records with each painting. Marcus lunged for the door, but Xander was faster, tackling him to the ground. You know what the funny thing is? I told Marcus as Interpol agents cuffed him. None of this was necessary. 20 years of revenge, manipulation, and crime. For what? The gallery was already successful. The paintings were already valuable. You don't understand, he spat. It was never about the money. It was about making your family suffer like mine did. No, my father said quietly. It was about your mother's bitterness destroying everything she touched, including you. As we watched Marcus being led away, Trinity touched my arm. What happens now? I looked at the paintings, at Anton's apologetic face, at my father's tired eyes. Now we restore what was stolen, not just the art, but the truth. And then we move forward. Together? She asked hesitantly. Together, I confirmed. All of us. Sometimes the greatest treasures aren't found in vaults. They're found in the moments when truth finally sets everyone free. 1 month after the Switzerland incident, I stood in my mother's restored gallery, now filled with the recovered paintings. The grand reopening was scheduled for tomorrow, but tonight was just for family, whatever that meant now. The insurance company finally settled, Juliet announced, handing me a check. Full value of the original claim, plus 20 years of interest. Donate it, I decided, to art education programs. Mom would have liked that. Speaking of donations, Trinity walked in carrying a large canvas. Look what I found in Anton's storage unit. My breath caught. It was my mother's self-portrait, the one I thought had burned in the fire. She was beautiful, Anton said softly from the doorway. I've been keeping it safe since that night. Prudence ordered me to destroy it, but I couldn't. Why didn't you tell me sooner? Because I didn't deserve your forgiveness yet. He stepped forward. Maybe I still don't. That's not your call to make, my father interrupted, joining us. Forgiveness isn't earned, it's given. Your mother taught me that, he added, looking at me. The gallery door chimed. Detective Rivera entered with a thick folder. Prudence's sentencing is tomorrow, she announced. But there's something you should see first. She laid out several photographs on a nearby table. These were found in Marcus's apartment. The photos showed my mother with Marcus's father, laughing, embracing. They were having an affair, Detective Rivera explained, until your mother ended it and married your father instead. So this whole thing, I started, was Prudence's revenge for a love triangle from 30 years ago, my father finished. She married Marcus's father on the rebound, then spent decades plotting her revenge after he died. That's insane, Trinity whispered. That's human, Xander corrected, examining one of the photos. Love and hate are closer than we think. My phone buzzed. A message from the prison. Prudence requests a meeting before tomorrow's sentencing. Don't go, Anton warned. She's manipulative until the end. I have to, I replied. For closure. Then we're coming with you, Trinity declared. The prison visiting room was cold and sterile. Prudence sat waiting, her designer clothes replaced by an orange jumpsuit. My, quite the audience, she remarked as we all filed in. Say what you need to say, I told her. I just wanted you to know I did love your mother once. We were friends before she met Marcus's father. Before she stole him from me. She didn't steal anyone, my father cut in. She made a choice. A choice that destroyed lives, Prudence snapped. I lost everything. No, I leaned forward. You threw everything away. Every relationship, every opportunity for happiness. You poisoned it all with revenge. And what about you? She challenged. Aren't you here for revenge too? I'm here for truth. There's a difference. The truth? She laughed bitterly. The truth is, you're just like me. We both built companies from nothing after betrayal. But that's where the similarity ends, Trinity spoke up. Marissa built something real. You just built more lies. Prudence's face hardened. You ungrateful little... That's enough, Detective Rivera interrupted. Time's up. As we turned to leave, Prudence called out, The paintings aren't worth what you think. I turned back. They're worth exactly what my mother always said. They're worth the truth they tell. And now, finally, they're telling the whole story. Back at the gallery, we gathered around my mother's self-portrait. Where should we hang it? Juliet asked. Right here, I pointed to the entrance wall, where everyone can see it first. No more hiding. To truth, Anton raised his coffee cup. To new beginnings, Trinity added. To family, my father said, putting his arm around me. The one we choose. My phone buzzed one last time. A message from the board. Emergency meeting tomorrow after the sentencing. Time to discuss the company's future. They want to know if you're keeping Anton and Trinity on, Xander guessed. No, I smiled. They want to know if I'm accepting the chairperson position. Apparently, running 2 successful companies while exposing a decades-old conspiracy makes for a pretty impressive resume. And are you? Juliet asked. I looked around at these people who had become my strange, complicated family, at the paintings that told our story of loss, betrayal, and redemption. Yes, I decided, but on one condition. We do it together. All of us. Even me? Anton asked quietly. And especially you, because the only way to truly break a cycle of revenge is to build something better in its place. As we raised our cups to toast the future, I caught my reflection in my mother's portrait. For the first time in years, I recognized her smile in my own. Tomorrow would bring Prudence's sentencing, a gallery opening, and a new chapter for the company. But tonight was about something simpler, the quiet victory of choosing love over revenge, truth over deception, and family over everything else. Sometimes the best revenge really is living well, but only if you're willing to let go of revenge altogether. The gavel struck with finality as the judge delivered Prudence's sentence, 20 years without parole. As the courtroom cleared, Detective Rivera handed me an envelope. Found this in Marcus's apartment. Thought you should have it. Inside was a letter from my mother to Prudence, dated just days before the gallery fire. I forgive you. Whatever happens next, remember that. My hands trembled as I read it. She knew what Prudence was planning. Your mother always saw the best in people, my father said softly, even when they couldn't see it in themselves. The gallery opening was scheduled for that evening. As we left the courthouse, reporters swarmed us. Ms. Clayton, what's next for Empower Solutions? Will Anton remain with the company? Any comment on Prudence's sentencing? I faced the cameras. Tonight isn't about business or revenge. It's about art, truth, and second chances. Join us at the gallery opening and see for yourself. Trinity touched my arm. Prudence asked to see you one last time. No, I said firmly. Her story with us is finished. It's time to write our own. The gallery hummed with excitement that evening. Art collectors, business leaders, and media filled the rooms, but my attention was on the small group gathered around my mother's self-portrait. I remember when she painted this, Anton said quietly. She told me to keep it safe, no matter what happened. I didn't understand then. But you protected it anyway, I replied. That counts for something. Speaking of protection, Xander approached with a tablet. The board just voted unanimously. The merger's complete, and they've approved your new leadership structure. All of it? Trinity asked. All of it. Joint leadership, profit sharing with employees, the education foundation, everything. My father raised his glass. To new beginnings. Wait, Juliet interrupted. There's something else you need to see first. She led us to a hidden panel behind my mother's portrait. Inside was a small journal and a USB drive. Your mother left instructions, my father explained. This was only to be opened when the paintings returned home. The journal contained detailed accounts of everything: the affair, Prudence's initial threats, the insurance fraud scheme. But it was the final entry that caught my breath. To my daughter, don't let bitterness win. Success isn't about revenge. It's about rising above what broke you. Build something beautiful from the ashes. The USB drive contained video messages, my mother speaking directly to camera, documenting her suspicions and hopes for the future. Play the last one, Trinity urged. My mother's face filled the screen, her smile exactly as I remembered. Say, if you're watching this, the truth has finally come out. Remember that forgiveness isn't weakness. It's the strongest choice you can make. And Marissa, darling, I'm so proud of the woman you've become. Tears streamed down my face as the video ended. Anton squeezed my shoulder. She was right, about everything. I know, I wiped my eyes, which is why we're doing this right. I climbed onto a nearby chair, clinking my glass for attention. Welcome, everyone. Tonight isn't just about recovering stolen art. It's about recovering lost truths and broken relationships. This gallery will now house the Restoration Foundation, dedicated to supporting artists and healing through art therapy. Applause filled the room. Additionally, I continued, Empower Solutions and the former Hoffman Industries will merge under a new name, Phoenix Rising Partners. Because sometimes the most powerful thing we can do is rise above our past and help others do the same. Trinity stepped forward. The Foundation's first project launches next week, art therapy programs in women's prisons. Including where Prudence is, Anton added quietly. Especially there, I nodded. Because healing has to start somewhere. As the crowd dispersed to explore the gallery, Detective Rivera approached with news. Marcus took a plea deal. He's giving up everything he knows about the international art fraud ring. Good, my father said. Let him find his own path to redemption. Juliet appeared with contracts. Ready to make it official? I looked at our unlikely family: Anton, Trinity, Xander, my father, Juliet, each carrying their own stories of redemption. Actually, I set down the contracts. First, I want to show you something. I led them to a new painting I'd commissioned, a phoenix rising from ashes, but looking back with compassion at its former self. This is who we are now, I said, not defined by what broke us, but by how we chose to rebuild. Together, Trinity added. Together, we all echoed. The gallery lights dimmed, highlighting the paintings that had sparked so much pain and healing. My mother's portrait seemed to smile down at us, her final message echoing in my heart. Success isn't about revenge. It's about rising above what broke you. And that's exactly what we did.
Growing up in a family steeped in the medical profession, I always believed becoming a doctor was my inevitable path. From a young age, I dedicated myself to my studies, consistently earning top grades. However, for my father, a seasoned doctor himself, excellent grades weren't sufficient unless they were nationally recognized. His relentless expectations wore on me over time, and I began to resent the very idea of a medical career. My name is Isabella. Both my parents and a host of relatives are doctors. It was assumed that my sister Aurora and I would follow suit. Aurora, who is 5 years my senior, seamlessly stepped into the role of the accomplished doctor, much to the delight of our parents. She was the golden child, effortlessly excelling and always showered with praise, even for the smallest accomplishments. In contrast, I constantly faced comparisons with Aurora. Any shortcoming on my part was seen as a personal failure rather than a natural difference given our age gap. As Aurora thrived, I felt increasingly sidelined. When she was under pressure, her stress often manifested in verbal outbursts or even physical aggression towards me, but I kept silent, knowing my parents would take her side. Though I attended a prestigious college preparatory school, the dream of college faded for me amidst the ongoing strife at home. I decided to forge a different path. After graduating high school, I quickly moved out, having saved enough from part-time jobs to support myself initially. I secured a live-in position at a hotel in a tourist hotspot, eager for a fresh start. Obtaining my parents' consent to leave while still a minor was surprisingly easy. They seemed eager to rid themselves of what they deemed a failure. Months passed without contact with my family. Then, as the year drew to a close, my father called, inviting me home for the Fort Worth celebration with our relatives. The invitation was unexpected, considering the silence that had stretched between us. "Daddy wants you to host," he said, before abruptly hanging up the phone. It was a command, not a request. At home, hosting the Fort Worth's feast was a long-standing family tradition where all our doctor relatives gathered. For me, these gatherings were nothing short of excruciating. I was invariably tasked with every menial job, from cleaning the house the day before, to preparing food, drinks, baths, and futons for the overnight guests. Mom simply issued commands, while Aurora, as usual, pretended I didn't exist, often questioned why these responsibilities always fell to me, especially since I felt an undercurrent of guilt for not following in the family's medical footsteps. It seemed easier to comply than to contest. Despite having left home and thinking I'd escaped these duties, my father's call pulled me back. I agreed to return, but planned a brief visit due to the demands of the peak season at the hotel where I worked. I couldn't afford a lengthy break. I arrived home to immediate criticism from my father. "You're late. Everyone's arriving soon. Why didn't you come yesterday?" he demanded. Work had made it difficult to take even one day off, but my explanation fell on deaf ears. "Stop making excuses and get ready," he commanded, entering the house. There was no sense of homecoming relief. My mother was ready with a list of tasks. I got to work for cleaning, cooking, preparing drinks. As the relatives arrived and the celebration commenced, I remained on the periphery. Their conversations, filled with complaints about the hospital and gossip about patients, were alienating. It seemed that becoming a doctor made it a norm to speak ill of others, Aurora thrived in this atmosphere, eagerly joining in the disparagement of fellow doctors and patients. As I served drinks, my cousin Andrew cornered me. "So, Isabella, being a doctor was too tough for you, huh?" he smirked. His words disgusted me. I wanted to tell him that I hadn't failed to become a doctor, I had chosen not to. I didn't want to be someone who relished belittling others. But I held my tongue, knowing that responding would only sap my energy further. As night fell, I escaped the toxic environment of my family home. My departure was met with complaints about who would handle the cleanup. In the silence of my departure, I felt relief, knowing that distancing myself from that world was the healthiest choice I could make. I excused myself from lingering at the family gathering, saying I needed to work early the next day. Without even packing extra clothes, I rushed out to catch the bus back. This brief visit marked my only interaction with my family for the entire year. Every year, I begrudgingly took a day off, made the trip home, and returned promptly. It was tiresome, but I managed since it was just once a year. I reasoned that, having lived at home until high school and them funding my prep school, showing up annually was the least I could do. 7 years had elapsed since I first left home, and now at 29, my routine visits hadn't changed. It was that time of year again, and I was expecting a call from Dad any day. But when my phone finally rang, the caller ID flashed an unexpected name, Aurora. It was unusual to receive calls from her, and I answered hesitantly, half expecting bad news about my parents. However, Aurora's tone was unusually bubbly. "Hey, you know the young CEO at your workplace? He's been all over the TV lately, hasn't he?" she chirped, her excitement palpable. This was a new side of Aurora, and it left me both confused and a bit apprehensive. I explained that he had been on TV because he'd opened several new hotels recently. Without missing a beat, Aurora blurted out, "Introduce me to him. I fell in love with him when I saw him on TV the other day. Plus, he's a young master, right? I think he'd suit me." Her words left me speechless. How could she think they'd be a good match? Her tendency to look down on others and her superior attitude would hardly align with someone like him. While I struggled to find words, Aurora pressed on, oblivious to my discomfort. "Oh, I see, you, just a lowly worker, probably don't even get to meet someone like him. I bet he wouldn't even remember you if you did meet, you're so plain." Even though I hadn't responded, Aurora continued, seemingly satisfied with her own narrative. I attempted to cut in, but her relentless stream of assumptions was overwhelming. Finally, she asked, "So, do you know when the CEO will visit your hotel?" Aurora's call, intended to use me as a stepping stone to meet someone she fancied, was an unpleasant reminder of the dynamics that pushed me away from my family in the first place. "I'll stay overnight if I can meet him in person. He won't be able to resist someone like me." "So, book it and cover my stay," Aurora declared with confidence about meeting the young CEO. I was dumbfounded by her audacity. "But Aurora, aren't you involved in arranged marriage meetings? Our family expects us to be settled by 27, and I thought you were already on that path," I managed to ask, puzzled by her sudden change in priorities. "No decent matches, just last week they introduced me to a 31-year-old. Find me someone suitable," she scoffed, dismissing her potential suitors with disdain. It was clear she looked down on them just as she did everyone else. Frustrated and unwilling to facilitate her latest whims, I told her it was impossible and hung up. A month later, on Fort Worth's Day, I returned home for the customary family gathering, planning to keep my visit brief as usual. However, this year the atmosphere was more suffocating than ever. As I moved around serving, Andrew sneered, "You work at a hotel, Isabella? Can't believe you're sticking with such a low-end job." My mother added, "Indeed, we're amazed you manage anything, given it's hardly as crucial as our work." Even my father chimed in, almost relieved, "I'm glad you moved out early. Now, we don't have to explain your choices to the neighbors." "I'm sorry I'm such an embarrassment," I replied, the words heavy with resignation. As their disparaging remarks sank in, Aurora burst into laughter. "You have no redeeming qualities. You'll be alone forever, won't you? What will you do? She taunted. Her cruelty unexpectedly dissolved my sadness, fueling a defiant spark within me. Aurora, you're 26, aren't you? 5 years older than me. What will you do if you keep dismissing everyone? You might just get left behind, I retorted sharply to my father's anger flared. How dare you speak to your sister that way? Apologize now. It was clear as always, Aurora was the favored child. If that's how it is, I wish you could just be a family of 4 and leave me out of it, I muttered under my breath, turning away from my father's rage. This only seemed to infuriate him more. What's with that attitude? Who do you think raised you? He bellowed as I walked away, leaving their criticisms and their narrow expectations behind me. The distance I had put between us felt not only necessary but liberating. As I stood in the entryway, ready to leave the family gathering that had once again proven unbearable, the atmosphere was charged with disapproval from my relatives. Before I could speak, my father's voice rang out harshly, "You are a disgrace to our family. Get out now." His mocking tone was a clear dismissal. Taking a deep breath, I responded with calm finality, "After this year, I won't be coming back." I picked up my belongings and walked towards the door, adding, "Thank you for everything up to now." Just then, the sound of a car pulling up caught everyone's attention. As I opened the door, a luxury car was parked outside. My parents and Aurora, curious about the sudden arrival, followed me out. Aurora was the first to spot the person stepping out of the driver's seat. "You, the president," she gasped. It was Nathan, the president of the company where I worked, the very man Aurora had once asked me to introduce her to. Nathan approached with a confident stride towards the house. Aurora, flustered and suddenly eager, blurted out, "Isabella, could it be that you?" She stopped, likely wanting to ask if I was going to introduce them. I couldn't help but laugh. "Sorry to keep you waiting, I was just leaving," I told Nathan, who returned the smile warmly. "I thought it was about time to come pick you up," he said. Our exchange left my family and the gathering relatives visibly shocked. My father stared at Nathan, completely dumbfounded. As Nathan reached us, he courteously addressed my father, "I apologize for my late greeting." I then leaned in close to Nathan and spoke loud enough for everyone to hear, "He's my fiancé. We're getting married next month." A stunned murmur rose, perhaps from Aurora, or my parents, or both. I continued with a light chuckle, "But I have no intention of inviting you to the wedding. I've realized I have no lingering attachment to this house and likely won't be coming back. This just isn't the place for me anymore." After Nathan had proposed to me, he expressed a desire to meet my parents. I had shared with him the strained dynamics of my family life and the negative things Aurora had inadvertently revealed about the family's reputation. Understanding the situation, Nathan decided it was time to step in. As we left, ignoring the stunned expressions of my family, I felt a weight lift off my shoulders. This dramatic exit wasn't just a farewell, it was a fresh beginning, free from the shadows of the past. I continued, my voice steady despite the bombshell I was about to drop. "By the way, there's a new hotel opening near Daddy's hospital. I'm involved in the project." During my research, I discovered some unsettling news about the hospital's reputation. It seems there have been multiple instances of medical malpractice and scandals linked to the place where Daddy and Aurora work. "Isn't that right, Dad?" His complexion turned ashen as I spoke. "You're not implicated in these issues, are you?" I prodded gently. The local community is quite taken aback by the hospital's poor reputation. They even have a saying, "Like father, like daughter," when referring to you and Aurora. It's quite shocking to hear, honestly. At that moment, I couldn't help but feel a twinge of responsibility. After all, they were still my family. Yet, I was eager to turn a new page and genuinely contribute something positive to the community with the hotel project. Meanwhile, Dad and Aurora seemed visibly shaken by my revelations, had confided everything to Nathan, my fiancé, and he had been a pillar of support. As we prepared to leave, he quietly opened the passenger door of the car, sparing any further drama. Nathan and I had grown close quite quickly. We met shortly after I left home, during a time when he was working under the previous company president, deeply involved in fieldwork. He told me later that he had fallen for me at first sight. This was a new experience for me. In contrast to my family life, where my efforts were often overlooked, Nathan appreciated my hard work and the joy I took in it. When the previous president fell ill, Nathan stepped up as his successor and proposed to me 8 months ago. His proposal wasn't just romantic, it was a partnership, as he asked for my support in leading the company. Since then, I've immersed myself in business studies, discovering a love for learning that was quite unlike my earlier academic pursuits. I realized that what I truly disliked was studying under the pressure of becoming a doctor, not the act of learning itself. When I found subjects that genuinely interested me, I dove in headfirst, eager to soak up knowledge and apply it in practical ways. As I moved to get into the car, my father's voice halted me. "Hey, Isabella, what's all this about?" I turned with a smile. "I'm no longer a daughter of this house. Goodbye." With that, I stepped into the vehicle, leaving my bewildered family behind. The car pulled away quietly. Later, the new hotel opened to great success, fully booked from day one. I was there, deeply involved in its operations. Then, during one of the busiest days, I noticed my parents and Aurora approaching. Daddy, spotting me among the staff, called out, "We came to see what kind of work you're doing and to stay over. Prepare a room quickly," my father demanded. I was too busy managing the hotel's grand opening to argue, but his nerve stunned me. Nathan, my fiancé, swiftly intervened, asking them to leave, but they made a scene in the lobby. It got so out of hand that I had to call security to escort them out. Just then, Hannah, a nurse from my father's hospital, walked in and exclaimed, "Oh, it's you, the teacher." I later learned she was referring to Daddy, whose arrogance, along with Aurora's, had given them a poor reputation among the hospital staff. Hannah, amused by seeing my father escorted out by security, couldn't help but share the story with her colleagues. The gossip spread, further tarnishing Daddy and Aurora's image at the hospital. Mom had once worked at the same hospital, but her retirement was actually forced due to a scandal. Hannah let that slip during one of her chats with the front desk staff, who happened to be her neighbor and friend. It explained why Mom seemed eager to hide her past. A few days later, my parents and Aurora showed up at the hotel again, even after the security incident. This time, I had no qualms about calling the police. They were arrested for obstructing business, adding to the scandal that was already brewing around my family. Their behavior didn't just affect their reputation. The hospital, already struggling financially, was forced to shut down, unable to survive the negative press and legal troubles. A few weeks later, as I passed by my family's house, it was empty, with a for sale sign in the yard. It seemed they had to sell it out of financial desperation. I also heard that Aurora's arranged marriage meetings had all failed, no surprise given her abrasive personality and the family scandals. With my phone number changed, I was unreachable to them, and I had no intention of re-establishing contact. Life was moving in a new direction, and I had no desire to revisit the chaos they brought. The hotel's opening was a success, and my wedding with Nathan was just around the corner. Both my personal and professional life were brighter than ever. With Nathan by my side, I was excited for a future that was entirely my own, free from the toxic influence of my family. Standing outside a local restaurant, I was suddenly approached by a chef with a startling revelation that left me utterly speechless. My name is Mia, a 27-year-old marketing director. My husband, Matteo, and I share a strong bond both professionally and personally. Our journey together began as co-workers and gradually evolved into a deeper connection through our shared interests and values. After revealing my feelings to him, we started dating and eventually tied the knot. Before we married, Matteo had been upfront about his previous marriage and subsequent divorce. Although it was a short-lived union with no children involved, they parted amicably due to differing life views. Mateo carried some lingering regrets about this chapter in his life, which made him cautious about love. Nonetheless, I embraced his history without reservations, focusing on building our future together. Our marriage kicked off on a high note, but over time, the intricacies of Mateo's past divorce started to emerge. Despite these challenges in our hectic work schedules, we found joy in our daily routines and cherished our weekends together, which were filled with shared activities, mainly because our weekdays offered little time for deep connection beyond quick conversations at dinner. A shared love for culinary arts led us to spend many joyful hours cooking together, exploring new recipes, and delighting in the flavors we created. However, the idea of dining out, once an enjoyable change from our home-cooked meals, became fraught for me due to my severe allergy to fruits from the rose family, such as apples and strawberries. This condition, which developed in adulthood, makes it risky for me to eat out since even minor contact with these allergens can cause severe reactions. I remember a time when I indulged in too many strawberries, only to end up with my mouth so swollen that breathing became difficult, a stark reminder of the challenges posed by my allergy. This incident profoundly affected my enthusiasm for dining out, turning what used to be a pleasurable experience into a source of anxiety. Thus, despite our love for exploring new culinary landscapes, we often find ourselves constrained to the safety of our own kitchen, where we can control every ingredient. Until discovering my allergy to rosacea fruit, I had enjoyed a variety of fruits like strawberries, apples, pears, and peaches. Learning that these beloved fruits were now off-limits was heart-wrenching. The difficulty of identifying safe foods was compounded by the unexpected presence of these fruits in meals I presumed were harmless, leading to adverse reactions. This uncertainty made dining out a nerve-wracking experience and left me wary of buying pre-packaged meals or snacks. The fear of a severe allergic reaction heightened my vigilance. I found myself meticulously checking ingredients, even if it meant repeatedly apologizing to my husband during meals. However, cooking together became a soothing activity, and the support from my in-laws, especially my experienced mother-in-law, eased some of my anxieties, allowing me to enjoy meals without fear. My concerns about allergies were temporarily overshadowed by a joyful event at work. A project I had initiated was successful, earning me a well-deserved promotion. My family, particularly my mother-in-law, was overjoyed, proposing a celebration at a prestigious restaurant within a luxurious hotel, a place I had long dreamed of visiting. Initially, the idea seemed too lavish, and I hesitated, overwhelmed by the restaurant's grand reputation. But my mother-in-law, with her unwavering enthusiasm, assured me warmly, making it hard to resist such a generous and festive gesture. Her joy over my professional success truly touched my heart, yet I couldn't shake off my reservations. Memories of browsing the restaurant's menu online, drooling over their fruit-filled tart, reminded me of what I was missing. Despite my longing, that restaurant visit remained just a dream. The restaurant often sources fruits from the respected Rossi family orchards, which, while esteemed, are problematic for me due to my fruit allergy. In the past, I hesitated to ask for special accommodations at restaurants for fear of being a burden, even though my mother-in-law always mentioned my dietary needs in advance. As a result, we usually opted for places that were less likely to use the fruits that triggered my allergies. Although tempted by the fare at this upscale venue, the potential risk from their frequent use of fruit made me cautious. Ultimately, I chose to decline the invitation to prioritize my health and avoid a possible allergic reaction. Nevertheless, my mother-in-law remained enthusiastic about the celebration and revealed that she had a personal connection at the restaurant, ensuring they would accommodate our dietary needs. This was news to both my husband and me. He was surprised to learn about his mother's connection and reassured me about the restaurant's commitment to allergy awareness, something he had noted from previous visits. This new information made me reconsider my initial reluctance, giving me a glimmer of hope that perhaps we could safely celebrate there after all. My mother-in-law had already informed the restaurant about my allergies during the reservation process, and they assured her they would take all necessary precautions. My husband, visibly relieved by this, smiled and encouraged me to fully enjoy the experience, reminding me that it was, after all, a celebration of my recent promotion. Although initially apprehensive due to my allergies, my respect and curiosity for the restaurant had grown over time, fueling my excitement about finally dining there. The special day fell on a weekday, so I decided to take a half-day off from work to make the occasion even more memorable. On the day, eager and a bit anxious, I headed straight to the restaurant known for its exquisite ambience. My mother-in-law, ever considerate and not one to boast, matched her enthusiasm with discretion under the circumstances. Driven by her excitement and my own culinary curiosity, we decided to enjoy a lunch together there. Given her history of attentiveness to my dietary needs, I felt a reassuring sense of ease. With our reservation set for 2:20 p.m., we arrived on time but were informed of a slight delay due to the lunch rush, which was a testament to the restaurant's popularity. To pass the time and begin the celebration right, I ordered a flute of champagne while we engaged in lively conversation, soaking in the upscale atmosphere. The champagne I sipped that day was unlike any other I had tried before. Its exquisite taste and the slight buzz it provided only heightened my anticipation for the meal ahead. As we waited, I observed the other diners around us, each engaged in their own festive moments, adding to the vibrant atmosphere of the place. As I settled into the plush seating of the upscale restaurant, my gaze wandered over the enticing dishes being served around me, stirring a rush of excitement for our forthcoming meal. However, a sudden vibration from my handbag interrupted the moment. The muffled ring of my phone was an abrupt reminder that I had forgotten to switch it to silent mode, a minor oversight during this special lunch with my esteemed mother-in-law. Earlier that day, I had donned a more elegant outfit than my usual office attire, prompting curious glances and inquiries from my colleagues. When I mentioned my plans to dine out, their well wishes buoyed my spirits as I left the office for the restaurant, located within a grand hotel. My mother-in-law was already there waiting as I arrived, and together we made our way to the restaurant on the first floor. Just as we were about to be seated, my phone rang again. This time, it was a call from work, which I answered outside the restaurant to maintain privacy. The call was merely a request for clarification on a document I had submitted, which quickly relieved my initial worries. As I prepared to return to our table, a sudden commotion caught my attention. The chef, looking quite alarmed, urgently approached me, advising me to leave the establishment immediately due to some unspecified danger. Confused and concerned, I followed her instructions, stepping out into the cool air of the street, realized then that the compassionate and understanding mother-in-law I knew would have been worried about my sudden departure without explanation. Yet, instead of concern, her reaction was unexpectedly harsh and critical, even extending to disparaging remarks about my parents and their upbringing of me. Throughout this unexpected confrontation, I remained silent, absorbing the shock of her intense outburst. With a heavy heart and a mind swirling with confusion, I quickly exited the hotel. The gravity of the situation sank in, draining the color from my face as I comprehended the serious tone of the chef's warning. I hailed a taxi, eager to distance myself from the unsettling experience and to take time to process the whirlwind of emotions and events of the day. That evening, as I made my way home, still processing the events of the day, my phone rang. It was my mother-in-law, her voice thick with anger over my sudden exit from the restaurant. She expressed deep embarrassment, having meticulously planned a special celebration only to see it disrupted by what she viewed as my thoughtless vanishing act. In her harsh critique, she challenged the courtesy and upbringing that guided my behavior, a side of her I had never seen before. I had always known her as a kind and gentle person. However, the situation took an unexpected turn when she noticed the allergy emblem on my bag. Feeling a responsibility for ensuring our meal was safe, she investigated and was horrified to discover the meal included ingredients that I was allergic to. She hadn't informed me earlier, and had I eaten, I could have suffered a severe allergic reaction. Initially, I couldn't believe that my mother-in-law would knowingly put me at risk. But as it turned out, not only did the meal contain allergenic ingredients in the dessert, but they were also hidden in the main courses, masked within marinades and sauces that were hard to detect. The woman who had warned me earlier had taken the reservation call from my mother-in-law and revealed that no mention of my allergies had been made. Amidst her scolding, my mother-in-law accused me of being an unsuitable wife for her son, which was deeply upsetting. After a lengthy tirade, she seemed to calm down slightly, and that's when I quietly asked her if she had indeed informed the restaurant about my allergies as she had assured me earlier. Her answer was evasive, and it became clear the restaurant had no idea about my dietary restrictions. The warning to leave the restaurant, given by the mysterious woman, suddenly made sense. She was well informed about the intricacies of my mother-in-law's character and urged me to exit quickly, hinting that my mother-in-law would likely follow. This woman turned out to be none other than my husband's ex-wife, who now went by the name Josephine. She had been observing from a distance and recognized the potential danger I was in from the mix-up regarding my allergies. As the new wife in the family, I was navigating my relationships cautiously, particularly with my mother-in-law, whom I initially believed to be kind and gentle. However, the day's events took an unexpected turn when my husband's ex-wife approached me, offering her help. Having endured mistreatment herself at the hands of my mother-in-law, she empathized deeply with my situation. The ex-wife shared that despite her professional culinary training, her life as a full-time housewife was marked by constant criticism from my mother-in-law. When my husband or father-in-law were not around, she faced relentless negative remarks and even had her dishes discarded. Though she considered discussing these issues with her husband, she felt trapped, knowing how well my mother-in-law could mask her true nature. Eventually, the ex-wife decided to leave the marriage due to the unbearable home environment and lack of evidence, which was hard to gather under financial constraints and constant scrutiny. She pursued her passion for cooking and established a career as a chef, finding success and fulfillment despite the shadows of her past. When my mother-in-law discovered her working at a restaurant, she tried to exploit her position, leading to confrontations that dredged up painful memories for the ex-wife. Her decision to warn me at the restaurant stemmed from recognizing similar patterns of behavior and a desire to prevent further harm. The day in question, the revelation that my mother-in-law had not informed the restaurant of my allergies, and her attempts to blame the ex-wife, cast doubt on her motives. Despite her defensive stance, I was determined to uncover the truth. I knew about the restaurant's stringent allergy protocols and their practice of recording calls, which provided the evidence I needed to confront her effectively. During our conversation, which was discreetly recorded, everyone present, including my parents and my husband Matteo, witnessed her harsh treatment of me. They also heard her admit intentions that seemed geared towards putting me at risk with allergens. After this intense exchange, feeling a mix of betrayal and vindication, I left the restaurant in haste, seeking refuge and time to reflect on these revelations, deeply pondering the next steps in dealing with this complex family dynamic. After the intense confrontation at the restaurant, I sought refuge at my parents' home where my husband, Matteo, soon joined us. Amidst a tense silence, my mother-in-law called. Her voice filled with defiance and envy was unmistakable. She was upset that I had gained recognition at work and favor in the neighborhood, overshadowing her own achievements. With an arrogant tone, she claimed that no one would believe my side of the story. Before this incident, I would never have thought her capable of such behavior. As we pondered our next move, she unexpectedly called again. Reacting quickly, I put the phone on speaker and started recording the call, capturing her self-incriminating statements. She was taken aback when she realized the conversation was being recorded, her voice trembling as she asked if her son, Matteo, was with us. The shock of her secrets being revealed was palpable. Matteo, who had been quietly collecting evidence, finally broke his silence. His voice, heavy with restrained anger, confronted her actions. "It is unfathomable that you could do this, mother," he said. Her response was a series of weak excuses, but they sounded hollow, especially against her earlier aggressive outburst. The fallout from this revelation was severe. She was eventually evicted from her home, left without familial support or financial stability. Despite her role as a homemaker, her husband, feeling a residual sense of pity, secured her a modest apartment and covered the first month's rent, urging her to find work. However, her lack of ambition, possibly stemming from her previous domestic role, made it difficult for her to pursue employment. Mysteriously, she continued to rely on both Matteo and me for support, which was troubling given her previous actions. Hope she manages to find the means to support herself and at some point compensate for her actions, as we have no wish to include her in our lives again. It seems her actions were driven by jealousy, reveling in the distress she caused me. On another note, Matteo's ex-wife, who had entered our lives quite unexpectedly demanding money, was met with firm opposition from Matteo, making it clear she was not welcome. Rumors later suggested she found work at a local supermarket, but her disheveled appearance and unpleasant demeanor hinted at ongoing struggles. Despite her quiet nature, she was not favored by many due to her behavior, complicating her efforts to rebuild her life alone. In our community, I've established myself as an independent and successful individual, gaining respect and holding a higher social standing, qualities that initially earned me admiration as a daughter-in-law. However, as time passed, the true nature of my mother-in-law surfaced, revealing a darker side that targeted those she perceived as weaker, particularly Matteo's ex-wife, Josephine. Matteo expressed deep regret to Josephine for not recognizing the bullying she endured from his mother. At the time, his new job and the trust he placed in his mother clouded his judgment. Thankfully, their conversation ended on a peaceful note, with Matteo relieved to learn that Josephine had moved on and found happiness with someone new. Over time, my mother-in-law's envy became apparent as she struggled to assert dominance over me, secretly hoping for my downfall. This tension eventually led to a dramatic confrontation involving Matteo, his father, and her, culminating in her confession and their ultimate decision to cut ties with her. Amidst these challenges, I formed a friendship with Josephine. Despite being Matteo's former wife, there were no concerns about their past relationship affecting ours. I valued having a friend who was similarly ambitious in her career pursuits. After resolving the issues with my mother-in-law, Matteo and his father threw a joyful party to celebrate my promotion, which reinforced my determination to continue working hard. Now free from any worries about my mother-in-law's interference, the confrontation with her was a turning point, lifting a tremendous weight off my shoulders. Her toxic behavior had overshadowed our lives for too long, and distancing her from our inner circle brought a refreshing sense of peace and clarity. This ordeal brought Matteo and me closer than ever, strengthening our marriage's foundation as we committed to supporting each other unconditionally and protecting our relationship from external negativity. Josephine became a constant source of inspiration through our shared experiences of overcoming adversity. Her remarkable resilience in rebuilding her life and pursuing her passion in the culinary arts was incredibly motivating. Our bond, forged in the fires of shared struggle, became a testament to the power of friendship and mutual support in the face of challenges. Seeing Josephine thrive in her culinary career was a powerful reminder of the endless possibilities that open up when one has the courage to escape toxic situations. Under her guidance, I regained the confidence to explore the dining scene again. She introduced me to a network of eateries that prioritized dietary needs with utmost professionalism, reigniting my passion for enjoying meticulously crafted dishes without the fear of allergic reactions. This newfound freedom in the culinary realm inspired Matteo and me to explore beyond our previous boundaries. With renewed zest, we traveled to exotic locations, immersed ourselves in diverse cultures, and created lasting memories that strengthened our bond. As time passed, Matteo's father grew to admire the strong, independent woman I had become. He frequently praised my resilience and Matteo's steadfast loyalty, often expressing his gratitude for the partnership we nurtured. Meanwhile, Josephine continued to excel in her field, eventually opening her own acclaimed restaurant. She became a trailblazer in the culinary world, championing inclusivity and catering to various dietary requirements. Whenever Matteo and I visited her establishment, we felt like royalty, savoring each bite of her expertly prepared dishes. Our social circle expanded to include individuals from all walks of life who shared our values of compassion, integrity, and unwavering support. We formed a close-knit community, celebrating each other's successes and providing comfort during difficult times. In the evenings, as Matteo and I relaxed in the comfort of our home, we would reflect on the tumultuous journey that led us to this point. The challenges we faced had only solidified our bond and reinforced our determination to live life on our own terms, free from the constraints of toxicity and manipulation. Looking back, I realized that the most valuable lesson I learned was the importance of surrounding oneself with people who uplift and empower, rather than those who seek to diminish and control. It was a difficult truth to face, but one that ultimately set the stage for a life filled with genuine happiness, love, and fulfillment. As the sun set on another day, I would gaze into Mateo's eyes, feeling grateful for the peace and contentment we had found together, knowing that we had built a life that truly belonged to us. In those quiet moments together, I often expressed my deep gratitude for Mateo's unwavering love and support. No matter what challenges we might face in the future, I was certain that we would overcome them together, strengthened by the resilient bond we had crafted through adversity. As time went on, each year brought its own set of adventures, challenges, and opportunities for growth. Mateo and I stood by each other as steadfast partners, navigating the complexities of life with a bond that had been tempered in the trials we had faced. Our careers also thrived. Mateo's dedication and sharp business acumen lifted him to the upper ranks of his company, while my innovative ideas and strategic insight secured me a prominent position at the executive table. Despite our professional achievements, we always kept our focus on what was most important, our family. Eventually, the desire to start our own family grew. After thoughtful preparation, we welcomed our first child, a beautiful daughter we named Sophia. Becoming parents was a transformative experience, enriching our lives with unspeakable joy and a new sense of purpose. We embraced the challenges of parenthood wholeheartedly, supporting and guiding each other every step of the way. Josephine's role in our lives grew even more significant as she became a beloved aunt to Sophia. Her visits were a highlight for us all. She delighted our daughter with stories from her adventures in the kitchen and taught her how to craft culinary creations that catered to the most discerning palates and mindful of allergies. Fia's upbringing was shaped by these shared experiences, enriching her childhood with love, learning, and the joy of good food. Through it all, Mateo and I grew closer, our lives deeply intertwined with those we loved, as we built a future that was about more than just surviving, it was about thriving together. We made it a priority to instill in Sophia the values that had guided us through our most challenging times: resilience, integrity, and the importance of surrounding oneself with a loving and supportive community. Mateo's father, now a cherished grandfather, took immense pride in the family we had built together. His steadfast support and sage advice were invaluable as we navigated the complexities of raising a child in a rapidly changing world. Our achievements extended beyond our personal lives. Our professional endeavors also flourished. I led initiatives that promoted inclusivity and empowerment within our industry, inspired by my own experiences with dietary challenges. Mateo's sharp business acumen and strategic vision drove his company to new heights, enhancing his reputation as a formidable leader. Throughout it all, our bond with Josephine remained strong. Her restaurant became a frequent gathering place for our family, where we celebrated life's milestones, savored her exquisite cuisine, and basked in the warmth of her joyful spirit. As time passed, our circle of friends and colleagues grew, welcoming new faces who shared our values and aspirations. This diverse community enriched our lives, adding a vibrant tapestry of perspectives and experiences. In quiet moments, Mateo and I would reflect on the journey that brought us to where we were, filled with a profound sense of gratitude. The challenges we faced, though daunting at times, had shaped us into the individuals we were today, resilient, compassionate, and unwavering in our commitment to each other. We knew that future obstacles would arise, and more storms would come, but we faced them with a newfound fearlessness, secure in the knowledge that we were never truly alone. Our family, love, and the solid support system we had built would see us through, just as they had time and again. As the sun set on another beautiful day, we would gather our loved ones close, cherishing the precious moments and eagerly anticipating the adventures yet to come. We were secure in the knowledge that our bond was unbreakable, our resilience unshakable, and our love eternal. When my husband, who had been battling a chronic illness for years, passed away, it marked a profound loss in my life. We had shared 3 decades together since marrying in our 38, without children, and every moment was filled with mutual support. Standing only a 4 inches over 5 feet, I had always lived a modest and reserved life, content in our little world. About a month after his passing, the sharp sting of grief was still fresh, and I found myself grappling with profound questions about my future. The sense of emptiness was overwhelming, and at times, I contemplated ending my own sorrow permanently, wondering if there was any point in continuing to cook for one. However, the encouraging words of my late husband echoed in my mind, reminding me of my independence and strength. He had always seen me as a wonderful woman, capable of facing life on my own. The days following his death were a blur. I was consumed with arranging the funeral, a process that was both a distraction and a somber reflection on our time together. My sister and her husband were instrumental in helping me navigate through the preparations, and their support helped me manage the emotional turmoil. Despite my grief, I was able to organize a dignified farewell that my husband deserved. The funeral itself was unexpectedly well attended, with colleagues from the National Logistics Manager where my husband had been an executive showing up to pay their respects. It was comforting to know that he was held in such high regard, and it reassured me that his life had touched many others. However, just as I was beginning to find solace in these small comforts, my sister-in-law, adorned in flashy clothes and sparkling accessories, burst through the door, her demeanor shockingly cheerful given the circumstances. We had never been close, and her sudden interest in me was puzzling until she bluntly demanded the inheritance. Her brazen approach left me stunned. It was clear that she cared little for her brother's memory and was solely focused on what she could gain from his passing. Throughout her life, she had been known for her arrogance and harshness, even towards my gentle husband. I remembered how, despite his success and substantial income, she rarely visited him during his hospital stays and remained dry-eyed at his funeral. Her coldness was breathtaking, and I had long decided to sever ties with her. But there she stood at the entrance, impatient and entitled, expecting to inherit without question. Yet, unknown to her, I held my husband's last words, a testament that would undoubtedly alter her smug demeanor. This document was more than just a will, it was a declaration of my husband's true feelings and intentions, which would soon reveal the depth of his thoughts about his family and our shared life. As I prepared to unveil this crucial piece of information, I steeled myself against her greed and disrespect. This was not just about defending my husband's legacy, but also about standing up for the values we had cherished together. The challenge ahead was daunting, but I was ready to face it, armed with the strength and dignity that my husband had always admired in me. When my husband passed away, I was deeply moved by the turnout at his funeral. Surprisingly, many colleagues from his company attended, speaking with great affection about his kindness and integrity. They shed genuine tears as they bid him farewell. Some had even traveled from international branches, recalling the good times they shared over drinks during his visits. Their presence was a testament to the impact he had on their lives. Although I wished I had more time to connect with each attendee personally, I meticulously recorded everyone's names and addresses. I planned to send thank you notes to express my gratitude for their support during such a difficult time. My sister and her husband were a great help in organizing these details, allowing me some respite amid the chaos. Reflecting on the ceremony, I felt immense gratitude. My husband's gentle nature had clearly touched many lives, and I felt privileged to have shared my life with such a remarkable person. However, his sister, my sister-in-law, posed a challenge during this period. She is significantly younger than my husband and quite well known in our community for her youthful appearance and vivacious personality. At 56, she maintains a style that is unusually youthful for someone her age, often wearing miniskirts and flaunting her looks. While I believe it's not my place to judge her fashion choices, her behavior towards me has been less than kind. Despite her age, she exudes an energy for life, regularly indulging in yoga and spa visits. In contrast, she often mocks my simpler lifestyle. "Allison, you always look so dowdy. Aren't you embarrassed to be such a country bumpkin? Silas was wealthy, so why didn't he marry someone more beautiful?" she would say, scrutinizing my attire and questioning the brands of my accessories. What's with that no-name brand bag and those old shoes? Doesn't Silas buy you anything? Her comments were sharp and intended to belittle. However, my values have always been different. I'm not one to covet numerous bags or shoes. I prefer living a minimalist lifestyle, believing in replacing the old with new only when necessary. On special occasions like anniversaries or birthdays, when my husband would ask if I wanted a gift, I often chose experiences over material items. To me, memories are priceless and irreplaceable. Now, with my husband gone, I face these challenges alone. Yet, despite the grief and the occasional barbs from my sister-in-law, I remain committed to honoring my husband's legacy in my own way. His profound influence on both my life and the lives of others continues to be a source of strength and inspiration as I navigate this new chapter without him. I'm grateful that I consistently stood by my values, choosing experiences over material possessions, despite my sister-in-law's persistent criticisms. Each time she made a sarcastic remark, I gently reminded her of my beliefs, but she would merely scoff and dismiss them. She often said, "Silas wasn't much to look at either, so in that sense, you were a good match. But surely, you must have married him for his money, right?" Her accusations were hurtful, as she insinuated that my intentions were financial and spread this misconception among our relatives. Indeed, many women had approached my husband with financial interests in mind. My husband was a simple man, uninterested in gambling or the nightlife. His main hobby was fishing. I remember being quite surprised by the amount of savings he had when we married. However, I too had been financially independent, having built a respectable savings from my 17-year career. It wasn't his wealth that drew me to him, rather, it was our shared values of simplicity and financial prudence that bonded us. Despite explaining this to my sister-in-law and asking her to correct the false stories she spread, she never heeded my requests. She seemed determined to believe that we were incompatible and constantly looked for things to criticize. Throughout his life, even my husband preferred to keep his distance from her, perhaps sensing her competitive nature. She hardly participated in the funeral arrangements and offered no condolences during his illness or hospitalization. Instead, she reacted angrily when informed about his condition, telling me not to bother her with such news. From then on, I resolved to keep her out of any updates, although I would reassure my husband by pretending she cared, sparing him the distress while he was alive. At the wake, her behavior was detached, as if she were reluctantly doing us a favor, indicating that it was someone else's problem, not hers. Yet, some relatives whispered about how she had been devastated by the news of her brother's illness, claiming she had been crying daily, lost her appetite, and was too emotional to visit him in the hospital. Hearing these justifications only added to the frustration and shock I felt, mingling with my grief over my husband's death. Overwhelmed by these complex emotions, I found myself tearing up right then and there, confronting the stark contrast between her public facade and the private pain she purportedly felt. Navigating through these trying times without my husband, I clung to the integrity and love we shared, striving to honor his memory in spite of the turmoil his sister stirred. My commitment to living authentically and cherishing the memories over material wealth remained unwavering, even in the face of such family strife. My sister-in-law's demeanor during the wake was perplexing. She seemed to portray herself as a tragic figure, yet there were no visible signs of grief like tear stains or swollen eyes. Despite having previously told me not to contact her, she acted surprisingly meek in front of our relatives. Sensing my growing frustration, my sister skillfully intervened and led me away to prevent any scene I might have caused in my agitation. It became painfully clear to me that my sister-in-law was fundamentally selfish, showing little regard for my late husband or anyone's feelings but her own. Resolved to protect my peace, I decided to severely limit any future interactions with her. As I began the slow process of sorting through my husband's belongings, each item I packed away felt like erasing a part of him. However, I reminded myself that our shared memories were forever etched in my heart, not just in physical objects. While balancing work and household chores, I strived to heal emotionally, cherishing visits from friends and family who came to pay respects at the altar. But as expected, it was my sister-in-law who disrupted this tranquility. One afternoon, she arrived unannounced, loudly demanding entry to ensure the neighbors could hear her. I was hanging laundry and couldn't pretend I wasn't home. "Allison, you're there, right? Your sister-in-law has come all this way, so open up," she bellowed. As soon as I opened the door, she barged in, thrusting a fancy foreign-branded shopping bag into my hands and kicking off her shoes without invitation. "What's all this about?" I managed to ask, to which she dramatically sighed. "Look, I've been so busy and couldn't visit right. I thought you might be feeling down, so I brought something nice." However, she quickly snatched the bag back and started pulling out items like jewelry, perfume, and fancy baked goods, none of which seemed appropriate or meaningful to me. Despite her actions, my sister-in-law made a surprising attempt to reconcile. "I know I've been harsh to you, Allison, but you were the wife chosen by my only brother. I didn't want his wealth to fall into the hands of a gold digger. But seeing you at the funeral, how you cried and gave that heartfelt speech with disheveled hair, not caring about appearances, I realized you were different." Her words, though intended to be conciliatory, still carried a note of judgment about my appearance and demeanor. Yet, the look in her eyes was almost respectful, as if she was seeing someone worthy of her admiration for the first time. This confusing mix of criticism and respect left me bewildered by her changed attitude, infused with a strange new passion. This interaction, as unexpected as it was, hinted at a possible thaw in our frosty relationship, though I remained cautious about her motives and sincerity. As my sister-in-law continued to heap compliments upon me, I felt increasingly suffocated by the presence of someone whose intentions were unclear and unsettling. Trying to maintain composure, I explained, "I'm sorry, but the estate hasn't been settled yet. The house isn't really an estate for visitors, so perhaps you could just pay your respects to Silas for now." However, her response was anything but understanding. With a cold stare, she snapped, "You really are oblivious, aren't you? Do you think I came here just to see your gloomy faces? It's about the inheritance. Isn't that obvious? You shouldn't have to make me say it." Confused by her demanding tone and the palms-up gesture as if expecting something to be handed over immediately, I found myself at a loss for words. "How long do you think I've been waiting? I have a pretty good idea of what my brother owned, so I know roughly how much I should get from the inheritance. Even if you try to hoard it, Allison, it's futile. Hand it over now, or if you think of deceiving, I'll call the lawyers and the police." She incorrectly assumed, "The division of property is supposed to be split between you and me, right? I'm entitled to half of the inheritance." I tilted my head, looking at my sister-in-law whose face was beet red from shouting. From what the lawyer had informed me, siblings of the deceased are typically entitled to a quarter of the estate, which would be divided further if there were more siblings. Since my husband and his sister were the only siblings, she was normally due to receive a quarter. My husband had often contemplated this situation before his death, given that his sister and their parents, who had always favored her for her beauty, had mocked and bullied him throughout his childhood. To prove them wrong, my husband had studied diligently, earned scholarships, worked part-time jobs, attended a top-tier university, and secured a position at a major company, eventually becoming very successful. He rarely shared more than this, hinting at a difficult life. I had urged him to make his own decision about the inheritance, and I only learned of his final wishes after he had passed away. Unaware of all these details, my sister-in-law vehemently changed her tone. "So you, just a wife, are going to take most of the inheritance? You're a money grubber too. I always thought it was suspicious, you marrying that plain man after turning 38. The only reason to spend a life with someone is clearly the money." Listening quietly, I pondered inwardly, what about love? What about shared values? It seemed to her, all was just superficial talk in the end. "Give me half of my share right now, and I'll disappear," she demanded. Her earlier sweet words and gifts now appeared nothing more than tactics to manipulate the situation in her favor, given her consistent antagonism. I had long suspected some ulterior motive, and her loud accusations at the entrance of our home only confirmed my doubts. As my sister-in-law stood in the living room where my husband's altar was prominently placed, her behavior starkly contradicted the solemn atmosphere. I could only imagine what my husband might think, observing quietly from heaven. Trying to manage the situation with some decorum, I told her to wait while I fetched a certain document. Her mood instantly brightened at the prospect, her comments about spending the money on fancy French food betraying her true intentions. I ignored her eagerness and retrieved the document from the back of the room. "Here, from Silas, this is for you," I said, handing her what was not just any letter, but my husband's last will. As she unfolded the paper, her face shifted from excitement to confusion, her perfectly arched eyebrows betraying her surprise at the contents. "What does this mean?" "I didn't know anything about this," she stammered, her ignorance a result of her disinterest in her brother's life. She slumped down, overwhelmed, as the reality of the will sank in. The will clearly stated that my husband had left all his property to me, a gesture of deep gratitude for a peaceful and fulfilling life together. He had written a letter so heartfelt it was almost embarrassing to read out loud. As I read through his words again, a surge of emotion warmed me, knowing he had thought of me so kindly even in his illness. The main motive, though veiled subtly, was to ensure not a penny went to his sister. Staring blankly, she muttered, "What does this mean?" But her shock rendered her almost unresponsive to any further discussion. I found myself having to usher her out and quickly locked the door behind her. Through the glass, I could see her silhouette swaying unsteadily as she walked away. The next afternoon, however, she shattered the brief peace by calling me. "I never thought you were such a vile person, Allison. You deceived me so well," she accused over the phone, her voice seething with anger. I felt a chill, confused by her fury, as I had done nothing deceptive. "You think you've got the upper hand," she continued. "Well, too bad, because you're about to see your life get very uncomfortable. This is your punishment for angering me. I won't forgive you, even if you beg." Her threat was vague, and her laughter following it was chillingly bitter. "I'd love to see you now, but I'm busy. I've just secured an appointment with my lawyer," she added triumphantly, though I couldn't fathom why she needed legal counsel or why she felt the need to inform me instead of simply going about her usual routines like yoga or spa treatments. Then she exclaimed, "Don't you get it? Talking to you just frustrates me, which is bad for my beauty. I'm not satisfied with the estate division, so I'm preparing to file a complaint. I don't know if you and Silas schemed alone, but a wife taking all the inheritance is unheard of. It's against the law. You can't just show Silas's will and expect me to shut up. You don't have a shred of conscience, using your sick husband for your own gain. I have a right to my inheritance, and I'm going to claim it." Her belief that I was plotting to monopolize the inheritance was baffling. Her accusations were baseless, yet her determination to challenge the will was clear. Despite the unsettling interaction, I stood firm, backed by the love and respect of a husband who had clearly expressed his final wishes, ready to defend his decisions and our shared past. Accusations from my sister-in-law continued to swirl around me, suggesting I had somehow manipulated Silas into bequeathing the entire inheritance to me. Her insistence was relentless, but I knew the truth. "It's pointless for you to pursue this," I told her calmly. "Silas personally handed that will to the lawyer. I only read it afterward, and I couldn't have tampered with it. Moreover, the lawyer has already informed you that you have no legal claim to the inheritance. It's best you don't bother, as they won't take your case seriously." Her voice rose, crackling with fury through the phone, likely infuriated by my composed response. "What's with that tone? You won't be so composed for long. Just keep sitting pretty." "I'm serious," she spat out. "I've called several lawyers since yesterday and finally got an appointment. The lawyer must recognize my determination. They are on my side and can even get compensation from you with a villainous line, 'Remember this.'" She then abruptly hung up. I was bewildered by her call. She wouldn't have listened to reason anyway. Perhaps she thought threatening me with legal action would unnerve me. Instead of reflecting on not receiving any inheritance from her brother, she was hell-bent on claiming it through any means necessary, which was almost comical in its desperation. Months passed peacefully, and I managed to sort through my husband's cluttered study, gradually packing away his belongings. Eventually, I made a significant life change. I sold our house and land, the place filled with memories of my husband. He had always dreamed of retiring to a quiet house in the suburbs, and I decided to honor that wish. I used the proceeds as a down payment to move closer to where my sister and her husband lived. While it was regrettable we couldn't fulfill this dream while my husband was alive, our dog, Coco, who had been with us for over 10 years, was delighted with the new home. She frolicked on the smooth flooring, so I bought a light-colored carpet to prevent her from slipping, easing the strain on her legs. Letting go of our old home meant fewer possessions, but also the chance to create a more comfortable living space, giving me something positive to focus on. Yet, the eerie feeling of my husband's absence lingered, making the sparse furniture seem lonelier, especially when Coco was asleep. Often, I found myself lost in thought, which I knew wasn't good for me. One day, my phone rang, snapping me out of my reverie. Without checking who it was, I answered, only to be greeted by my sister-in-law's irate voice. "You're going to kick me to the bone, you pestilence." Her sudden outburst jolted me awake, but I still had no idea what she was on about. Sensing my silence, she continued without waiting for a response, "It's your fault I'm getting divorced because the inheritance didn't come through." My response was incredulous, merely guessing at her meaning. She likely had promised her husband they would receive a significant portion of my husband's estate, and the dissolution of those expectations may have strained their marriage to the breaking point. But to blame their marital problems on the absence of an inheritance highlighted the fragility of their relationship. It's not fair to dump their issues on me, I thought to myself. Why don't you apologize instead of blaming others? Her accusations were unfounded, and I felt no obligation to shoulder the blame for the disintegration of her marriage. The situation was surreal, yet there I was, standing firm amid the chaos she tried to create. My sister-in-law's desperate call came through one day, her voice fraught with panic. "We can't make ends meet. What am I supposed to do all by myself now?" she pleaded. It was clear she was struggling, but when I suggested, "You could get a job, you're still young in your 41s, she fell silent. Perhaps the reminder of her age or the suggestion to work irked her, but it was high time she faced reality. Her reliance on her husband's income and now the anticipated inheritance from Silas had placed her in this precarious position. She confessed, bitterly, "He said if we're not getting your brother's inheritance, you're useless to me. You're just a woman with good looks and money." The decades they spent together unraveled with those words, revealing a marriage predicated on financial gain rather than mutual support. Her husband's reaction was cruel, yet not entirely surprising. I had only met him a few times, when they got engaged and during holiday gatherings. Like her, he favored luxury brands and expensive cars, his lifestyle giving off an air of frivolity. Their arguments about money revealed a deeper problem. They likely had little savings, having lived lavishly on his income. The situation escalated when she disclosed. I even got turned away by the lawyer I consulted, who confirmed there was no inheritance for me. "Everyone's against me, but you're the one I can't forgive. If you hadn't been around, none of this would have happened." Then came a slew of absurd accusations. "Allison, you must have brainwashed my husband, right? He said he should have married someone like you. Why does your name come up in his words? You must have been seducing him behind my back." The allegations were baseless and illogical. I didn't even have contact information for her husband. Her rant continued, "My husband has never praised a plain woman like you before. You must have seduced him and had an affair. Confess, and I might forgive you if you give me the inheritance." Overwhelmed by the sheer absurdity of her claims, I ended the call. The house was already sold, and the land was being cleared. There was nothing left for her to claim. I hadn't shared my new address, minimizing our chances of an unwanted encounter. Deciding to eliminate any further disruption, I set up a call block, determined to live peacefully. 8 months later, I had settled into a tranquil life with my dog, Coco. I dined out occasionally with my sister and her husband, enjoying my days and sometimes eating in the room with my husband's altar, which he probably would have appreciated. Regular health checks kept me in good spirits, and the convenience of local shops made daily life easy. However, a call from social services revealed a new chapter in my sister-in-law's life. Divorced and broke, she had applied for welfare. The news was a stark reminder of how drastically our paths had diverged since the inheritance debacle. However, when my sister-in-law applied for welfare, the officials informed her that she was ineligible if she had family capable of assisting. The relatives who once flattered and supported her unanimously declined to help, aware of her past indulgences and her tendency to alienate those around her. Eventually, social services reached out to me, but considering her previous actions and motivations, particularly her greed and inappropriate behavior at the funeral, I felt no obligation to intervene. It didn't matter that she might have been on good terms with my husband before he passed. Her subsequent choices showed her true colors. Despite her accusations that I was the one chasing money, it was clear she had become the true money chaser. Her situation deteriorated further when I heard rumors that she had landed a job but quit abruptly under dubious circumstances. Neighbors reported that, after learning about her messy divorce, her ex-husband had disappeared, and she soon moved out too. Whether these tales were true or not, they circulated without confirmation, and no one in my circle knew of her whereabouts or how she was managing. As time passed, I found myself less concerned with her whereabouts or welfare. My life regained its tranquility, allowing me to focus on more joyful pursuits, like spending quality time with my dog, Coco. Coco, much like my late husband, was a quiet soul, but I noticed she was barking less as she aged, which worried me a bit. Fortunately, my sister, a dedicated dog lover who often helped take care of Coco, brought some cheerful news that brightened our days. She called me one day to excitedly inform me that she had gotten a puppy. I went over to my sister and her husband's house, where the new puppy greeted us energetically at the door. Coco's eyes sparkled with curiosity and mild excitement as she approached the lively little newcomer. Watching them together, Coco's cautious interest and the puppy's playful antics brought a genuine smile to my face. It was a heartwarming scene, and I hoped earnestly that this puppy would become a good companion for Coco, bringing her companionship and joy in her older years. After a bitter confrontation, my father yelled that I meant nothing to him anymore and that I should never set foot in our house again. Supported by Andrew, my soon-to-be husband, I left our family home, tears streaming down my face. This painful moment came just after I graduated from high school. My name is Amy, and now, at 31 years old, I'm a farmer. It's been 15 years since that fateful day. Reflecting on it now, I realize I've lived more years building my own life than the time spent in my childhood home, a thought that fills me with a mix of nostalgia and pride. I grew up in a city where my father worked a program coordinator job and my mother took care of our home. Our family of 5 also included my older brother Silas, who was clearly favored as the heir. This preference was obvious in everything from the quality of our meals to the lavishness of his birthday gifts. He took pride in his favored status, often belittling me, which left me feeling isolated and starved for attention, a plea my parents continually ignored. My life's turning point came during the summer of my junior year in high school. Silas was preparing for college entrance exams, aiming for a prestigious university. Under the pressure of poor mock exam results, he frequently lashed out at me. Meanwhile, my parents, treating him with kid gloves, burdened me with chores to free up his time. Despite performing better academically, they seemed intent on sabotaging my grades to keep his spirits up, an approach that made no sense to me. Around this time, I learned of a rural experience program through my school, offering students a chance to live on a farm for a few days, participating in activities like harvesting vegetables and cooking. Despite my troubled home life, I decided to join, eager for a change. However, my father dismissed the idea, criticizing the agricultural life as foolish. Despite his resistance, this program opened a new path for me, leading me away from my tumultuous family dynamics towards a life where I could flourish on my own terms, disparaged by my father for choosing a path he deemed suitable only for those who failed to secure program coordinator jobs, and mocked by my mother for embracing the physical labor and inevitable mess of farm work. I still decided to defy their objections. Using the pocket money I had saved, I signed up for the Rural Experience Program, my first act of rebellion against my parents' commands. This decision, driven by my yearning for the affection I lacked at home, turned out to be a transformative one. The fresh, rural air and the physical work were refreshing and fulfilling. More importantly, I discovered a different kind of family warmth that I had been craving. There, I met Andrew, the eldest son of the host family, who was about the same age as Silas, but his demeanor was worlds apart. Unlike Silas, Andrew was kind yet assertive, harmonious with his parents, and incredibly supportive towards me. His parents were genuinely caring, and when my brief stay ended, the emotional farewell left both Andrew's mother and me in tears, with her assuring me that I was always welcome to return. I promised I would. As modern technology was scarcely used by them, I kept in touch through letters, which soon turned into a regular correspondence with Andrew, resembling an exchange diary. Our relationship blossomed from this quaint beginning into a heartfelt, albeit long-distance romance, devoid of physical intimacy. Meanwhile, after Silas settled for a lesser-known private college, having failed his preferred university entrance, I faced pressure from my parents to forego college and start working, under the pretext that women didn't need higher education. However, their true motive was likely their desire not to have me attend a more prestigious university than Silas. Inspired by my rural experience, I harbored dreams of becoming a farmer, a dream that did not require a college degree. Yet, knowing Andrew was in college and exploring modern agriculture specialist, I was motivated to pursue an education that could lead to innovative farming practices. With a clear goal in mind, I dedicated myself to studying, despite the ongoing distractions and discouragements from my family. My determination paid off when I passed the university entrance exams, a success that infuriated my father. He accused me of trying to overshadow Silas by aiming for a superior university. My mother echoed his sentiments, claiming they could not afford my education because Silas's needs were their priority, suggesting instead that I should work and contribute financially to the household. Despite these challenges, I remained steadfast in my resolve to forge my own path and redefine what success meant to me. Crushed by my parents' harsh words during a heated argument, I made the difficult decision to sever ties with them. Andrew, who was my steadfast support, came to take me away from that toxic environment. His parents, who would soon become my in-laws, generously offered to cover my college expenses, enabling me to pursue higher education. 5 years later, Andrew and I were married. Throughout my college years, I had no contact with my family. However, upon my in-laws' insistence that we should at least inform my family about the wedding, we visited my childhood home for the first time in 5 years, right after my graduation. It was the beginning of summer, and we were all deeply tanned from the hard work of planting season. Upon seeing us, my family's reaction was cutting. My mother, barely concealing her scorn, remarked on our sun-darkened skin, insinuating our poverty. My quiet plea for her to stop was blatantly ignored. Silas scoffed, praising his intellectual work as a sign of intelligence, implying our manual labor showed a lack of it. The smiles on my in-laws' faces turned to expressions of shock, but Andrew stood firm, proudly affirming our life as farmers. My father's response was brutally dismissive, declaring that with my marriage to a poor farmer, I was to be treated as a stranger and warned not to seek any financial help from them in the future. Disowned once at 15, I was already familiar with standing on my own, but this explicit reaffirmation of their rejection was still hard to swallow. The ride back home was quiet, and I couldn't help but cry, feeling the weight of my family's rejection yet again. I decided then to let go of any hopes of reconciliation and move forward with my new family. As the years passed, the sting of their words faded. I was blessed with 2 children and a life filled with rewarding work and love. Nearly 2 decades later, while I had all but forgotten those painful memories, a cousin reached out to inform me that Silas was getting married. This news stirred some old feelings, but I was reminded of the full and rich life I had built away from the shadows of my past. My cousin and I have always shared a close bond, keeping in touch sporadically even after my marriage. One time, I sent them some rice from our farm which they found exceptionally tasty, becoming regular buyers. This connection kept our relationship alive, and we found joy in our monthly phone chats. During one of these calls, my cousin mentioned Silas's upcoming wedding, a topic I knew nothing about, given my estrangement from my family. It seemed there were also plans for my family to move into a new duplex post-wedding. My cousin, aware of the rift but perhaps optimistic about familial duties, hinted that I might see them at the wedding or other significant events. After ending the call, a spur-of-the-moment decision led me to try contacting my mother. To my surprise, an automated message informed me that her number was no longer in use. The same happened when I tried my father's number. Unsure of Silas's number and feeling anxious, I dialed the family landline. The phone rang, and my heart raced as I waited. Silas answered. "Hello? Silas, it's Amy. I heard you're getting married and moving," I started, hesitating as I tried to choose my words carefully, about to congratulate him. But before I could continue, he interrupted. "There's no need for you to do anything. You, a farmer, are a stranger to me. Don't call me again," he snapped and abruptly ended the call. Stunned, I tried to call back, only to discover that I was blocked. His harsh dismissal was a painful reminder of our severed ties. Despite our shared past, he still viewed me with disdain. Seeing me upset, my husband approached with concern. "What's wrong? Did something happen?" he asked gently, ready to offer comfort. His presence was a soothing balm, but the sting of rejection from my own Silas lingered, a harsh reality of the family dynamics I had long tried to leave behind. As I recounted the hurtful conversation with Silas to my husband, tears flowed uncontrollably. His reaction, along with that of my in-laws, mirrored my anguish. "Your home is here, Amy. Your family is with us," my mother-in-law Sienna reassured me, her words wrapping around me like a warm embrace. In that moment, I wished she could be my real mother, for her care surpassed anything I had experienced from my own blood relations. My father-in-law's Wesley comforting words followed, emphasizing my present happiness as the ultimate measure of success. "No need to get hurt. The one who laughs is the winner," he said sagely. My husband chimed in, suggesting we take my family's behavior as a lesson in what not to become. Even our children, unaware of the full extent of the situation, offered their support with tight hugs, filling me with gratitude. Despite the love and support I found within my new family, a significant turning point came when my business was featured on national television. Leveraging my knowledge from college and the surplus produce from my in-laws' farm, I started a web developer venture selling jams, juices, and pickles made from slightly imperfect fruits and vegetables. Backed by the local farmers' union, our business flourished, resonating with consumers seeking safe, locally sourced food options. The success story of our $7 million business, built by young women like me who married into farming families, garnered widespread attention after the TV coverage. Amidst the flurry of inquiries and orders following the broadcast, an unexpected call came through, an unknown number flashing on my phone's screen. To my surprise, it was Silas. It seemed he had caught wind of my newfound success. His abrupt request for financial assistance left me speechless. Barely exchanging pleasantries, he bluntly asked for money to kickstart his own business venture. My response was firm and unequivocal: "Excuse me, but no." Upon hearing Silas's brazen demand for money, my resolve hardened, and I firmly declined his request. However, he was relentless and called again, aggressively insisting that I fund his entrepreneurial dreams, arguing that if I could succeed, so could he. This display of entitlement baffled me, especially since he had previously cast me aside, calling me a stranger because I was a simple farmer. During this heated exchange, I took the opportunity to ask something that had been bothering me for a while: why I hadn't been informed about his upcoming marriage and the family's move. His response was as dismissive as it was enlightening. He blamed his wife, describing her as a city girl who insisted on cutting ties with me the moment she learned about me. Frustrated and not wanting to delve deeper into his justifications, I ended the call and blocked his number. It became clear that Silas's attitudes were likely influenced by his wife, who seemed to share the dismissive traits of my own parents. Later, another unknown number appeared, and this time it was my father. His accusatory tone took me by surprise as he questioned, "Why are you the boss? Did you steal a man's job?" I calmly explained that both Andrew and Wesley were actively involved in the farming business, emphasizing the strategic business decisions behind our operations. I mentioned that Wesley was the president of the local agricultural association and Andrew had incorporated his share, making him the president of that corporation. Perhaps my explanations had an impact because his tone shifted slightly, and he asked why I hadn't reached out to them. Stunned by the hypocrisy, I reminded him that they were the ones who had disowned me. With that, I ended the call and blocked his number too. But the calls didn't stop there. Shortly after, my mother phoned, demanding why I wasn't supporting Silas financially. She exaggerated our business earnings, claiming we made $500 million a year, and asked for a ludicrous sum of money, citing all the favors they had done for me by raising me. Her aggressive demand was shocking but not entirely unexpected given her previous behavior. Each call only reinforced my decision to maintain distance from my biological family, whose expectations and entitlement seemed boundless. Despite their attempts to reinsert themselves into my life due to my financial success, I chose to prioritize the well-being and tranquility of my chosen family, the one that had truly supported and uplifted me through all these years. Despite the dizzying revenue figures we hit, after expenses and employee salaries, the actual profit was much less. I tried to explain this to my mother, who instantly accused me of lying, insistent on her demands for a sizable financial handout. I couldn't help but wonder how she wasn't embarrassed by her audacity. Firm in my resolve, I told her, whether I have the money or not, we're strangers, before I hung up and blocked her number. I hoped that would close the chapter, but I was mistaken. Unexpectedly, my family, my parents, Silas, and his wife whom I'd never met, arrived uninvited at my in-laws' home. My father attempted to bridge the gap with what he thought was an enticing offer. "Hey Amy, you want to hear the surprise? I'm revoking the disownment." The sheer desperation for financial gain was palpable. Sienna, clearly perturbed, asked, "What on earth is going on with you people?" The room filled with a tense silence, broken only by the collective stares of Wesley, Sienna, and our employees, all fixed on my family with disbelief. Silas, feeling bold, asserted a misplaced right to my earnings, backed by his wife's nodding approval. "The real blood connector family is us. We have the right to the money you earn too," he claimed. I was livid. "I don't think so. Though we share blood, there's no emotional bond. You treated me like a stranger and abandoned me." The old wounds of familial rejection were painfully reopened, and I felt tears threatening to fall again. At that crucial moment, Andrew stepped beside me, his presence reassuring. "Bella is now a part of our family, and even without you disowning her, we are perfectly happy. Please go home," he stated firmly, defending me with unwavering support. Our employees also voiced their disapproval, shocked by the audacity of my biological family. "Were you thinking? How rude," they murmured among themselves, showing where their loyalties lay. As I stood there, surrounded by genuine support, I felt a profound sense of belonging. Silas, unable to handle the confrontation, lashed out. "Shut up, you country bumpkins. You're all low-educated trash, aren't you? Obey what we say in silence," he ranted. Andrew, calm yet assertive, responded, "Well, both," but his words trailed off as it was clear that no reasoning would sway Silas's thinking. In that moment, surrounded by the people who truly valued and accepted me, I knew where I truly belonged. The confrontation underscored the stark contrast between my past and present, affirming my decision to embrace the family that chose me over the one that discarded me. My father and I both have Ivy League degrees, and Bella graduated from a prestigious university renowned for its agricultural program. We revealed our educational backgrounds casually, which seemed to shock Silas profoundly. Despite being Ivy League alumni, the concept of us choosing to farm baffled him. Given his graduation from a lower-ranking university, his university title might have been his only source of pride, and he likely didn't anticipate being outclassed in educational credentials. Andrew, maintaining his composure, explained, "Farming is a respectable profession. We can fully utilize what we've studied in college." His words left me unable to suppress my laughter. Amidst the tension, I couldn't help but see the irony. "Silas, you've lost to Andrew in every aspect," I said, my laughter providing a brief relief from years of built-up anxiety. I then gathered my courage to set boundaries clearly, perhaps for the last time. "Let me say this clearly one last time, we are already strangers," I declared, pausing to ensure my words were taken seriously. Switching to a more formal tone, I continued, "So I can't lend or give money to strangers. Please leave. If you make a fuss or act violently, I'll call the police and take legal action." At that moment, my in-laws and husband stepped closer, ready to protect me from any potential harm from my parents, and Silas. Their support was a tangible reminder of the family I truly belonged to. The employees also rallied behind me, loudly urging my family to leave. "Out of here. Go home," they shouted. My parents, Silas, and sister-in-law Riley could only glare at us with resentment, their options exhausted, retreating in defeat. Later, I heard from my cousin that Silas and parents had tried to get rich quickly by starting a business with debts instead of borrowing money from me. Their arrogance, however, led to a significant failure, and now they were nearly bankrupt. I decided then that their fate would no longer concern me. As for myself, my career was flourishing, and I was blessed with a family that truly valued and respected me, wonderful in-laws, a loving husband, and adorable children. Moving forward, I vowed to cherish each day and savor the happiness life offered, surrounded by those who genuinely cared for me.